Hello everyone and welcome to this Wasabi Cloud NAS control folder demo. What we're going to do today is just run through two scenarios with Cloud NAS. We're going to run through setting up a local folder with some files in it and share that and synchronize that using Cloud NAS. And then we're going to go through setting up a share on a Synology box. So a NAS device on the network and how we would protect that and how we would also do space reclaim. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to go ahead and turn my video off because again, no one wants to watch me and we'll get on with the demo. Cool, so the first thing we're going to do is look at a local Windows folder. So you can see here, I've got Cloud NAS running up here. I've done no configuration yet. It's kind of vanilla as it would be after an install. And over here on the left, I've got just a local folder. So it's just on my E drive with some files in it, some old Acrobat documents. So what we're going to do is we're going to protect this share, and then we're going to do some space reclaim on it, and we're going to do some restores. Now, I've shared this folder out so I can also get to it from a desktop. So imagine this is a user and they've mapped a drive to the share, and they're also seeing the Acrobat documents. And at the moment, these documents are full fat documents. I can look at the properties of them. They are, size 687, size on disk 688. So they are full fat local files, and I can go ahead and I can view those files, open up in Acrobat Reader and read them. So let's go back to our NAS server. Here we go. So the first thing we're going to do is protect this share. So I'm going to add a source in, and I will find my share, which is on the E drive, Neil shares, and we called it NS files local. So there we go. So I've got my folder. So what you'll notice over on the right now is it asks for some information, but it doesn't say anything about a control folder. So remember that, because later on when we do the Synology share, you'll notice that there's an additional step that we do in here. So target name, what do we call this? Let's just call this the same, NS files local. And then I need to pick my region. So I am going to go to London, and I just need to grab my keys quickly. They're all ready to go over on another screen. So 1, 2, so pop those in. So as soon as I've got that done, I can list my buckets, see what I've already got. I've got no buckets created in my Wasabi portal, so I can go ahead and create a bucket. So I'll call this exactly the same, NS files local. There we go, and hit OK. So there we go. I've added the source in, I've put the credentials in, I've given it a name, and now I'm going to hit the apply button, and it's going to go OK. It will always pause Cloud NAS just in case you want to add any more policies in the mix. We won't do to start with. I'm just going to resume this. And what we'll see, if we look at the stats on the share, we'll see that it starts to replicate some files. There we go. It's replicated all 12 files. Good to go. I can look at the files over here. Yep, they're starting to get their green ticks next to them. There they all go. So I know these files have now been synchronized with Wasabi. I can look at the stats on the files again just to see that they are still full fat files. Yep, they're still full fat. Size on disk 688, and the size of the file 687. So they are local files. So what we're going to do now is reclaim these files. So what I want to do is set a policy to say if these files haven't been accessed for a certain amount of time, I want them to be stubbed off locally. So that's what we're going to do. We're going to add a policy, and I'm going to do a reclaim space policy. So all I have to do really here is decide how often or how old I want the file to be, or the last time it was accessed before it gets reclaimed. Now, because we're doing a demo, we're going to go quite crazy here, and let's just go for 20 seconds, and we'll apply that. So what we need to do now, what's going to happen in 20 seconds time, we'll see that these files start getting reclaimed. They haven't been accessed for a while, obviously. There we go. So the green clouds have turned into a white cloud. That tells me that these files have been reclaimed. And again, if I look at the properties of the same file, you'll see that its size of the file is 687, but now the size on disk has gone down to 0. The file is not actually there anymore. It's only with Wasabi. The only thing that's being held locally is the stub file. Now, because it's a stub file, if I need to access that file again in the future as a user, I can just go ahead and click that file, and Cloud NAS is going to bring that file back for me from Wasabi, show it to me, and then again, if I look at this file, it's got a green tick now, it's been recovered, look at the properties, the size on disk and the size of the file are the same size. However, my reclaim is 20 seconds, which is, quite crazy. So what's going to happen? 20 seconds will elapse, and this file will reclaim itself again. Now, from a user perspective, if I'm accessing this over my desktop, again, I can see that there's a little cross next to the file. That's telling me it's been reclaimed. Again, I can look at the property of the file and I know it's been reclaimed. 0 bytes on disk. However, as a user, because it's coming directly from a Windows share, I have the ability to recall that file. Because it's a Windows file and it's being served from a Windows share, I can go ahead and click any of these files and they will get retrieved directly for me. So there we go, that one's come back, and again, in 20 seconds time, they'll get reclaimed and they'll turn into stub files again. So that's how to set Cloud NAS up if you're doing it directly from a Windows server. Nice and easy, and very simple to understand. So what we're going to do now is look at a slightly different scenario. So this new scenario is where we've got the files on a network share. So what we had previously was a Windows file server with some shares on it and the Cloud NAS software installed on that server. And now we're going to have, as I said, a Cloud NAS server, and the files that we want to protect are actually going to be on a Synology share. So coming from my home Synology box. So I'm just going to pull up the shares here. So here's the Synology share. You can see again I've got some PDF files in there on my Synology NAS, and what we're going to do is go ahead and add that in as a source. So we're going to add a source. We need to map to that share now. So I'm going to use my DNS name, LabSyn, and then SynShare1 and Synology files. So there we go. I've mapped to the share, so I'll select that folder. Now it does ask me for some credentials for the NAS, so I'll go ahead and put in the credentials for my Synology admin account. And it's added in the source path. Now you'll notice underneath the source path we've now got this new box. It says control folder, which we didn't have when we were protecting a local Windows share. So what the control folder is, it's a location on the same server where Cloud NAS is installed, which is going to hold the stub files, because we can't change the files on the actual Synology itself for stub files. So what we do is we have a control folder on the NAS server which is going to hold those stub files for us. So I've created an empty folder just on my E drive called NS Synology. So we'll go ahead and browse to that folder. There we go, control folders NS Synology. So we'll select that folder. And we'll see that that folder is currently empty. There's nothing in it. So we'll just go and give this a name. So we'll choose, I don't know, NS Synology, that'll do. And pick our region. And I'll just go ahead and grab my access key and my secret key over here. There we go. We'll list our buckets. We'll probably see, there we go, the bucket that we used earlier for the local copy. So I'm going to go ahead and create a bucket, and we'll call this NS Syn again, just for Synology. There we go. So that'll go ahead and create that bucket. Once I've got everything and I'm happy with it, I'll hit the apply button, and it will say NAS is going to go into pause mode. You'll notice that it did create the it created the stub files down here, and we'll just go ahead and unpause NAS, and we'll just check the synchronization happening. There we go. Pending, replicated, everything's replicated. I'm getting my nice green ticks on my control folder. So if I just go and look at the properties of these files in here, we know that these should be stub files, and they are stub files, 0 size on disk. But if we go ahead and look at the files that are still on the Synology, we haven't added the reclaim policy yet, so they're still full fat files. And from a user perspective, let's just go to a desktop. So here we go. I've got both those shares open here. I've got a mapping to my Synology share, and I've also mapped to that control folder on the Cloud NAS server. So we can see these are still full fat files. I can still open them as I would normally do. There was a trip to airport that I went on. So we can see that, you know, everything's as it should be at the moment. So we're going to go back to the NAS server, and we're going to add in the reclaim policy. Let's just shrink that one down so you can see which one we're working on. We'll add that reclaim space policy, and again we're going to go for our crazy little 20-second policy there. So any files that have not been accessed in more than 20 seconds, I would like you to stub them off, please, to reclaim the space. So what we should see happen in a second, these shouldn't change because these are just our stub files. But what we should see is these files, here we go, they've all gone into reclaimed mode. So they are not there anymore. If we look at the properties of this file, they're 0 size, 0 bytes. They're not actually there anymore, but they're not stub files either. They are reclaimed files. Now, the thing with reclaimed files, let's just go back to the desktop. The thing with reclaimed files is you can't open them. Windows doesn't know what they are. It just sees them as being a reclaimed file. So it just says, I don't know what to do with these files. Dog started barking. There we go. So if I go back to NAS now, as I said, so all the files are being reclaimed, and we've got our stub files in the in this control folder. So what you have to do when you're using this approach is actually recall the files back using the control folder. So as I said, I opened that share up to the network so I could get to it from this desktop machine. So if I was a user, I could go into the control folder. I could see, yeah, you know, that reservation that I need for my flight to Edinburgh, I actually need that back. I can go ahead and double click that in the control folder. It will bring my Acrobat, my reservation back for me. And what it'll actually do in a second is it will repatriate that file back into the Synology share. Takes a couple of seconds for it to get on and do that, but we'll see that that file will actually get fully brought back and put back in the share. There we go. So our folder, our file is there ready to go. Now, because we've got our crazy 20-second reclaim policy, obviously if I don't go and access this file again for 20 seconds, Cloud NAS will do what it did originally, and it will reclaim the file, it will stub it off, and it will go back to just being a, there we go, it's gone back to being a reclaimed file, and we've got our stub file sitting here ready to go. So that's the two main differences if you're synchronizing from the local Windows machine that you've got Cloud NAS installed on, or whether you're synchronizing from a network share. So if you're doing it from a network share, you will need this control folder. And if you want users to be able to, you know, automatically reclaim the files, recall the files that have been reclaimed, you'll need to open this share up to the users so that they can map into it, and then they can reclaim those files. So hopefully that gave you a good example of yet the two ways that you can recall or set up synchronization and recall the file. So either locally or using a share, and the difference being, if it's a share, we need this control folder to be able to recall the files back. So hopefully, if you enjoyed this demo, please feel free to drop me any messages if you want. It's just Neale, Neale, @wasabi.com. Thank you very much for watching.